Hey parents, do you ever find yourself reaching for that third cup of coffee just to make it through the afternoon? At the same time, does your child seem constantly wired and exhausted, hard to go to sleep at night, struggling to focus or wind down? You're not alone. It's very common to see parents and children mimic or actually mirror a lot of their health struggles. What you're experiencing is actually a struggle with the cortisol in your body. We oftentimes call this either cortisol addiction, adrenal fatigue in adults, but really it stems from the nervous system and that neurohormonal control being way too wound up. And this isn't just affecting adults. It's becoming increasingly common in our children. The constant fight or flight state, it's just become our new normal, right? With everything, with going to different practices and events and busy schedules, it's wreaking havoc on our family's health and well-being. Now, the worst part of this imbalance is the solutions that you've been offered, either from ADHD medications for your child or the extra shot of espresso for yourself. Not that coffee's bad. I absolutely love coffee, but sometimes it's like, is this really even helping? Because I am just so wound up and worn out. And then it becomes actually perpetuating the endless cycle you're trying to break. Now, the statistics in this are alarming, but I've been here with my family. I've struggled with this with myself and my kids. According to recent data, ADHD diagnoses in kids have nearly doubled in the past 20 years, with stimulant prescriptions following suit. These medications, they can help in the short term, right? They govern that system, but they don't address the underlying neurological imbalance. And they're just not natural, so they don't work with the body. Oftentimes, they work fighting against the body. In our practice, we constantly see families whose both children or parents are caught in this just endless stress cycle. The child is prescribed stimulants for focus issues, while the parent relies on something else, caffeine, creating this mirror image of patterns of nervous system dysregulation. So what I want to dig into this video is really look at the connection between the nervous system, the stress that starts at the beginning, and this neurohormonal imbalance with cortisol and its connection to the autonomic nervous system. Now, cortisol addiction occurs when the body becomes dependent on the stress hormone cortisol or adrenaline for energy, focus, just daily functioning tasks. We actually use this hormone every single day to help our bodies mount a response to stress. Now, it's not a clinical diagnosis, cortisol, but it is a physiological state when we get addicted to that cortisol. Oftentimes, you've heard this go similarly with adrenal fatigue. That's when cortisol really runs out and we start to see the fatigue side of it. But this state has the body adapt chronically to elevated stress hormones of cortisol that can absolutely lead to exhaustion and fatigue. Now, the autonomic nervous system that controls cortisol actually has two main branches, the sympathetic fight or flight system and the parasympathetic rest or digest. Now, these two systems are designed to work in balance with each other. The sympathetic system is activated for emergencies and for stress. The parasympathetic is predominantly for healing and restoration. Now, in cortisol addiction, the nervous system actually becomes stuck in the sympathetic dominant state, constantly pumping out stress hormones, pumping out cortisol, pumping out adrenaline, and over time, the body begins to require these hormones just to function and wanting more. Now, here's really where it starts to affect our kids so much more than our adults. Whereas us, we might have built to that state, right? And you get there in your 20s, 30s, you've got 2-3 kids, job stress is coming up, you've got travel and sports, you've got stress in your life, right? But with kids, oftentimes we think of them and we say, okay, how can they be stressed, right? Like, I take care of all their needs. I get them their food. I help them put to bed. I do all these things as a parent. But actually, if you look back in their history, there's early birth trauma or early childhood trauma that sets the stage for cortisol addiction. Now, birth interventions like forceps, vacuum extraction, C-sections, even just basic induction in the hospital can create physical trauma to that delicate upper neck or brainstem regions with newborns. This causes what we call subluxation, misalignment, tension, or neurological interference within the nervous system. Now, when this subluxation occurs in these key areas, it directly impacts a nerve that's up here too, called the vagus nerve, and the autonomic function of it. Often this shifts a child immediately into the sympathetic dominant response from the very beginning of life. And if they have this sympathetic dominance response that gets stuck on, this neurological balance can continue to manifest initially as a lot of the symptoms we see in babies. Colic, reflux, sleep issues in infants, but as children grow, it frequently appears as focus, hyperactivity, or emotional dysregulation, or a lot of times those behavioral struggles that are common with ADHD or anxiety. Now, what perpetuates this cycle is just modern lifestyle, right? Then we get busy as families. Our modern environments are bombarded with nervous system stimulation, from screens with blue light to triggers to cortisol production, processed foods spike it, the blood sugar crash from that, and then just, winters in different states and activity levels. All of these things play a role. But if the nervous system is dysregulated from the start and stuck on that sympathetic stress stuck on side, all of this extra stimulation isn't going to have a countermeasure. It's not going to have a counterweight to it. And that's where we get kids to struggle with cortisol struggles, with adrenaline struggles. And then honestly, they're very, very wound up, but they're very, very exhausted. Now, parents, we often mirror this pattern a lot of times with caffeine dependency, busy schedules. We have our own screen addiction, social media and things like that. How easy is it to pull off those things and just suddenly get stuck in that? So it creates this family-wide pattern of sympathetic dominance. Now, the medication trap makes things worse because when children display signs of this, oftentimes we're prescribed those stimulant medications like Adderall, Ritalin, things like that, which temporarily boost focus, but they also further activate that sympathetic nervous system. So these medications, they don't address that root cause of the neurological imbalance of that sympathetic system stuck on. Now, as parents, oftentimes we don't realize we're in the same trap as our kids. We think of it as two separate things, but really it's the nervous system that's controlling all these things that are causing us to get stuck in this cycle. Now, rather than masking the signs, what we look at as neurologically focused family chiropractors is we look at the root cause of cortisol addiction. That's what I've said this whole time is it's the nervous system, the brain, that really controls the release of cortisol function. It actually does that in the kidneys and the adrenal glands to really fuel the entire body with that. So if we help the nervous system and calm the nervous system to control that, it's going to help regulate the hormones, and it's going to help regulate that support side of it and give us proper automatic function of hormones, energy, metabolism, and all those things. Now, what we use that was really cool that helps us to measure this, because we had one thing to self-diagnose it, right? And say, yes, I struggle with these things. We want to go further than that. We want to use advanced technology like the Insight scans to help detect where this neurological imbalance exists and then develop a personalized care plan to restore proper function within that system. And that's really where we can help the body's systems to get back on track. So then we're not so stuck in that sympathetic system, but the parasympathetics, the rest and relax side of it, are able to come about more naturally. So breaking the cycle of cortisol addiction and of hormone struggles and things like that from energy, it really requires a comprehensive approach, because I can guarantee you've tried it, right? You've went on the coffee fast, you've done the yoga, you've done the meditation, you've tried to do it for your kids too, and it's even harder for them likely. But we specialize at PwC in helping families reset their nervous systems naturally without relying on medications that just mask those signs and help the symptoms. Now, the scans we use in our office, they provide a clear window into what your family's nervous system function is. So it allows us to address those specific needs and then benchmark it to help improve it. Now, what's really cool about this is the softer signs that change first for families are really the things that get to the root cause of a cortisol addiction or a hormonal imbalance, right? Affecting all of these things downstream: our sleep, our digestion, our the ability to focus, the ability to, eat good foods. All of these things are key softer signs that often happen first then to create this better cycle of improvement in our health. Now, if you're ready to break free from your neurohormonal system just being extremely amped up and wired, and you feel like cortisol addiction and this cycle is where you're at, we would love to help your whole family and look at these Insight scans of your family. During your initial visit at our office, we take time to truly listen to your story, conduct a thorough assessment, so go through all of that history side of it, then do your scans, and then determine our approach and our care plan to help you holistically to get to the root cause of this struggle. So if you're a parent and you're wound up and worn out, if you're looking at your kids and they're struggling to focus and have good attention and they're really wound up at school and at home and you need more balance in your life, we would love to help you and take that first step in neurological balance to discover what it looks like to live cortisol addiction free in your life through neurologically focused chiropractic care. Hope we can help. Check us out, guys.